questions. Prajakta, I suppose the exponentiation is clear to you, right? You were asking about exponentiation. Sanya is asking, why can we not write day as 06082021 in Excel as the date? Yes, you can. You can write. If you want to write dates in A1 to Z1, then how to do it? It depends on what date you want to write. You want to insert the date of like today's date, you can say equal to today. Okay, so that will insert today's date. So that's possible. And you can go ahead and write any other date. Now remember, the dates are highly dependent on what your location is set to. Okay, so we in India, we would read this as 6th of August 2021. But if your location is set to US, if your Excel location is set to US, then they will read this as 8th of June 2021. Okay, so if your location is set to US and if you are trying to calculate the difference between two dates, then remember this will not be calculated as 6th of August. This will be calculated as 8th of June. All right. So you might get wrong results, not because of the fault of Excel, but because of differences in how the thing has been set up. But like I was mentioning, dates are dates, etc. we'll cover on Monday. Today, I want to just cover maths. Okay. Union operator usage. Okay, like I was just mentioning, so union operator will simply give you the union of different things. Say, for example, you want to have the sum of first three numbers. So you say this union, this union, this, sum of first three numbers, right? It is the same as, it is actually just the same as using a range operator to say sum of first three numbers. It's the same thing. They'll both give you the same answer, right? So one is using the union operator, sum of J2 union J3 union J4. The other one is sum of J2 to J4, right? So where is union operator likely to be useful? Union operator is likely to be useful where you want to do a sum of three very different kinds of numbers. This, and this, right? So there, union operator is your only option. You cannot do anything else. Suppose you want to calculate the sum only of these things, right? Then you have to use the union operator. All right. So let's move on to other kinds of functions. So far we've covered sum, right? We've covered sum and we've seen how sum works. Now, what if you want to create sum? You want to create sum with certain things, right? Like say certain conditions, right? So imagine if this is marks and you only want to have sum of people who have scored above 50. Okay, sum of people who have scored above 50. You only want to calculate sum for them, right? So you say equal to sum if, right? So sum if is sum if a condition is met. So arithmetic with a certain logical operator, sum if a condition is met. Select the entire range, right? And what is my criteria? My criteria is greater than equal to 50. In the bracket and hit enter, right? Okay, sorry. So just for sum. Only work. It's showing an error. Yeah, I don't know why it's showing 0. C3 to greater than. Oh, sorry, because there is nothing which is greater than 50 here. So it is showing 0, right? So I have to do something like that. all the numbers are actually less than 50. So I'll have to do something like greater than 20 or greater than or equal to 20. Okay. So the sum where numbers are greater than 20, or if you want, you can even have greater than or equal to 20. So 20 will also be taken if there are any such values. So this is sum with a particular condition. Okay, you can have sum with multiple such conditions. We'll cover that later once people are a little more comfortable with the regular sum and sum with one condition. Then we will look at sum with multiple conditions. I don't want to confuse people with getting into too many things. Okay, so sum and sum if. Similarly, you can do average, right? Average is calculated as equal to average. Again, the range. Okay. Now here, remember, there is no sliding around of the formulas involved. So I can leave these formulas with the relative reference. There's no problem. Okay. But if you were to make absolute, then also there is no problem. There's going to be no error. There's going to be no difference. Okay. So you can make them absolute, you can make them relative, does not really matter. So you can have them whatever way you want them to be. Okay. So I have an average of all of these 17 people. If I want an average where they have scored above 20 or equal to 20, then I have the function called average if. Average if. Okay. What is my range? Once again, this comma greater than equal to 20. Okay. So this would be the average of people who have scored above 20. Okay. So average of people, average score of people who have passed is 80%. Right? That's the meaning of this. Okay. Now, sum if can do a couple of other things also, and they are kind of interesting when they have this. Suppose these are not marks. Suppose these are not marks. Okay. And suppose these are sales records. These are sales records of zone. Right? Sales record of different zone. So I have north, I have northwest, I have northeast, I have south, south central, I have east, I have west, west central, right, and so on. Okay. Imagine this is how much my data is. These are all the sales figures. Just forget about these for the time being. Okay, just removing these for the time being. Okay. Now I want to calculate sum of say all of the northern zones. Sum of all of the northern zones. So what are the northern zones? Northern zones are north, northwest, and northeast, right? They are the northern zones. So instead of specifying, so there are two ways I can do it. I can specify exact, names and say sum if this equal to this, this equal to this, this equal to this, right? Or I can use a wildcard. I can use a wildcard. What does a wildcard mean? Wildcard means something that matches partially, right? It will match partially. So let me just show you how to use a wildcard. So I say sum of what? Sum of this, right? Comma, what is the criteria? The criteria range would be over here, right? And what would be the criteria? The criteria would be north star, right? So I can have north and star. That will tell you that there is some sort of a criteria involved looking at north. So just sum if, because not multiple. If I have more than one criteria, then I'll use sum if s, sum ifs, right? So here, what this is doing is, right, let's just first do it without the star and see what happens. Without the star, what it is doing is, formula will talk. So it says sum if, right? Is comma criteria is not. Oops, selected the wrong sum. Criteria is not. Yeah, right. So the first one. Okay. So here, if I'm just selecting north alone, it is only looking for north and it is returning 15. It's not looking for northwest and northeast. Suppose I want those two to be included. That means I want Excel to look for anything that starts with the word north. Anything that starts with the word north. So I say north and I put a star or I put an asterisk. So now what it is doing is it is looking for north, it is looking for northwest, it is looking for northeast as well. So all three of them are getting added into the sum. So sum of anything which has the word north. Suppose I want to do the same thing for south. So I say this will do south and south central, right? This will give south and south central, right? Suppose I want to get everything central. So if I say south central and west central, so I can do it as asterisk central, right? So that will give me an addition of south central and west central. So it will look central as the last word and anything before that. What are the two conditions here? South central and west central. They are the two things that match. So they will add these two things and give it to you as 47. So this is possible. I think you can also have a question mark instead of the star. No, it doesn't work. It used to work in the earlier version. Probably now it doesn't work. So star is what is considered to be the general wildcard character. Okay. So this becomes useful. When does this become useful? This becomes useful when you have something over here. Say, let's say, instead of this, you say this, right? So equal to this becomes a particular cell. In fact, I'll show you that later when I've taught you how to make in-cell drop-down. So once we make in-cell drop-down, then I can have drop-down zone selection over here. So if I select a particular zone, then automatically the sum for that zone will appear. So once I do that, then I'll show you this one. So that is about sum if. The same thing will work for average if. Now you can also do similarly count if. So you can say one is count. So you count all of the numbers. So you say count, how many are there? It's just going to count 8. Okay. So what is the average algorithm actually? Average algorithm actually is a sum equal to this and the count and divided one divided by another, sum divided by the count. Okay, that is what the average algorithm actually is. You can combine the two things and say sum of, right, divide by count of the same thing, right? So the average function that we are doing is actually nothing but a sum and a count, right? You see, all three methods, they are doing the same thing. We are just taking different ways to do it. One separate sum and separate count, the other combining both of them in one function and one formula, and the third is using the built-in function. So here you can see Excel can combine a whole bunch of formulas within itself, right? So one formula can actually be a combination of multiple such functions. So I can even add new constants to it, right? I'm multiplying it by 1, so therefore the value does not change, but it's possible to add constants to it. You can do whatever you want. You can add as many different things as you wish to do. Again, you can have average if also the same way, average if, right? Average if this entire thing, right, is having not in the name a star, then calculate the average. That's possible. So the not related names alone, 3 of them, their average is 32.667. Okay, so you can do the same thing for average. Now, when it comes to count, right, let's just take a look at what happens. So I'm going to put the count of these two columns over here. So I'll say count of this, and I'll say count of this. Okay, both should return the same count. When we are counting, both are 8. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So both of them should return the same thing, yet one of them is returning 0, the other is returning 8. Why is this discrepancy happening? This discrepancy happens because typically the count formula is looking for numbers. Okay, so it is not able to find a single number, single numeric value, therefore it is returning 0. So you can change this to a count array function. You can change this to a count array function. So you say count A, right, and all of these, then that will return 8. Okay, so count A, which is a count array, does not differentiate between a number or anything else. As long as there is a value in a particular cell, count array will show. Suppose a cell is blank, right? If a cell is blank, then count array will not show. Okay, so it will count as long as there is a particular value over here, irrespective of number or alphabet. Okay, irrespective of number or letter. Suppose here I change instead, it will not, because it's count only. But count A will count irrespective of whether there is a number or letter. But where count array will not work is where there are spaces. So suppose I have, right, and I have, like, say, okay, so I have a lot of these values, right, and let's say I remove 1. There are some values which are missing. There are some values which are missing over here, right? Say I don't know how many values are missing. So if I'm going to do a count of it, then it will give me how many are there, but not with the blanks. So if I need to know how many values are missing, then I will say count blank. Okay, count blank of this entire range. And then it will tell me that there are 2 blanks. There are 2 blank. So I don't know if any of you are from the statistics background. So if you are, then I mean, for that matter, even many of the others also, whoever is working with data, you will realize that missing data handling, missing data analysis is something which is of great importance. So in these kind of cases, to first understand how many missing data values are we talking about, we are saying there are 231 data values and there are 2 blanks. So it's very invaluable for understanding these kind of things. Suppose you want to know, how many cells are there totally over here. Okay, how many cells are there totally over here? Okay, so we've got a function called rows and we've got a function called columns. So we have a function called rows, 8 rows, and we have columns. Number of columns, right? Okay, 2 columns. Okay, so there are 2 functions, one is column and one is columns. Column will simply return the column number of something. Okay, so you say equal to column without the s, then it will just return the column number. So this value is C3 value is in column 3. Okay, why is this important? This is important because in older versions, right, in very old versions, and in Lotus 123, the rows and columns were not numbered as A, columns rather were not numbered as A, and rows as 1. Both of them used to be numbered as 1. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So it became very confusing. So how did they circumvent that problem? They circumvented that problem as saying R and C. So what we call as C3 today, right? C3 today used to be called earlier as R3 C3, right? That means row 3 and column 3, right? So D became R3 C4. This became R3 C5. Okay, so that was called the row column addressing scheme. For people who are using, data in that kind of from legacy systems, old systems, Excel still allows you to do that. You can still change the system to row 1 column 1 scheme, but it is not recommended and it is not the default. So imagine having something somewhere else and you want to quickly make that formula. How do you do? By returning that column number. So anyway, coming back to where we were, if you want to find how many total values are over here, what you can do is you can simply say rows, right, of an array multiplied by columns of the same array. Tells you that there are total 16 values. So rows multiplied by columns. Okay, rows multiplied by columns. All right, so couple of important other things now to talk about. So sometimes you will find that you have a certain value, right? You have a certain value and you want that value to come over here, right? You want that value to come over here. So what is the typical way you would move the value? You would copy it and you would put the value over here, right? So if you look at this particular value, this is still a function. Okay, and you see what has happened to that function? It has gone into some other range. But since this is a row column multiplication thing, the value is still correct. However, for other things, this will no longer give you the correct answer, right? So you want to move, but you want to move without moving the formula. So you just want to move what the value is. Okay, how do you move the value without moving the formula? So in order to do that, we will again have to go through paste special. We will again have to go through paste special. So I copy, I come here, go to that paste, little small arrow below that, and you say you can go to paste special or you have a direct shortcut here, V for values. So you have a clipboard saying 1, 2, 3, you paste that, you will get values, or you go to paste special, and here you have a lot of different options. So it says you can paste everything, you can paste only formula, you can paste only value, you can paste only format, and so on. Here we want to paste only values. Click OK, right? So now if you see here, this has just pasted as 16. There is no other formula associated with it. What is the good thing and what is the bad thing over here? The good thing is that it does not change anything, and therefore there are no scope of any errors, right? But what is the bad thing? The bad thing is, suppose you make a change in the original array, original area where you have the numbers. This will change, but this will not be able to change. Okay, since this will not be able to change, it is a good idea to not have this as a function if you need it to update later. If your data is not final, then do not make anything as base special. But once you are sure that your data is final, everything is done, it's all complete, then you can go ahead and put that as a base special. Okay, clear? Right? Okay, just to get a sense of what kind of math you people need, right? So what is the need, what is the amount of math, so accordingly we can see how much we want to cover. So just to get a sense of how much maths do you need. Okay, also looking at the questions, Suresh is asking about VLOOKUP. Yes, we will cover VLOOKUP in the next session. Monday, we'll talk about VLOOKUP. Where to go after paste special? So I'll show you that. So you come here, depending on what you want to do, you copy first, right? Come to where you want to paste it, go to paste special, right? Then press whatever you want. If you want the values, select values and click OK. That will paste the values. If you want this to be transposed, select this, come here, go to paste special, select transpose, right? You can also select transpose the values. That's also possible, right? Transpose will make it horizontal. So you say OK. Right. So on Windows, paste special shortcut is Shift F10. Right. So if you want to just paste the values, so you Control C, come here, press Shift and F10, and then press V. Okay, Shift F10 and V. On Mac, you'll have to press the Control, Command, and V. On Windows, it is Shift F10 V. And on Mac, it is Control, Command, and V. Okay, but don't worry so much about keyboard shortcuts. I always tell everyone that it's all right if you forget the keyboard shortcut, because everything that is doable by keyboard is also doable using the ribbon on top. So it is important to know that it is possible or not possible. Once you know it is possible, you can always figure out the keyboard shortcut later. So do this and you know that it is available over here, values directly over here, or other things, base special and then values, right? So mostly we go for values. That's the reason why values is given directly as a shortcut over here. Values and number formatting, values and source formatting. Suppose here, I'll show you this. Suppose here this number is written in a different font. Okay. This. Now, if I come here, right, there's a formula, and not only formula, there's also a value. I come and just paste the value. So you see, the value got pasted without the formula, but the formatting did not get pasted without the formula. So if I take this Command C, right, and I come here and I say values and source formatting. So not only is the value coming, but value is also coming in that special format, right? If I just want the format to come, there are of course multiple ways of doing this. So I select this and I bring here and I say Shift F10 and V, the value and the source format directly comes, right? If I come here and if I just say select okay, so if I come here and say Shift select, come here, paste only the values. Now, if I want the formatting to come, we already know that I can use the format painter and paint this. That's also possible, but if you would rather avoid that extra step, you can directly go on to paste the values as well as format. Okay, so Parth is asking, if you need to restrict the cell to insert a single digit number only, how can we do that? So there is something called data validation. I was just mentioning a little while ago that I'll show you in a couple of sessions down the line. I'll show you how to add an in-cell drop down. Okay, so an in-cell drop down is actually restricting to certain numbers, right? So data validation comes under that. It's the same kind of a concept. So we'll cover it a couple of sessions later. Okay. There's a question from Bharti Prasad asking about greater than or equal to. So you are just checking if something is greater than or equal to or not. So you say this is greater than or equal to this. True or false? Is it greater than or equal to yes or no? It is, right? So it says true because it is greater. Similarly, you can do a less than equal to also. It will now say false. Right? Sonia Kalra is asking how to write if these sales figures is in crores, shortcut for it. Okay. So typically what is done in this kind of a situation is that over here we write as crores. Okay, value in crore, right? Or rupees crores, INR crores, right? So the values themselves remain like this. However, there is also a way to say, for example, if you enter, say, something like this, right? And you wanted to change into crores, that's also possible under custom formats. So I told you that I'll cover custom formats later. I don't want to get into that today. I want people to just first practice only these formats: general, number, currency, percentage, fraction, etc. And then once you are comfortable with it, then we will go into custom formats.